Okay, to start things off, we're going to turn it over to Major Tim Huberts.
Thanks, Dar. Welcome, everybody. We'd like to start with presenting the colors, so if you'll all stand and join me as Wisconsin State Patrol Honor Guard presents colors. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Thank you. Please be seated. Well, welcome everyone to the 13th Annual Badger TraCS Conference. First of all, I'd like to thank Dar and her staff for putting this together and putting all the time and effort into making this happen. It took a lot of work, a lot of coordinating, a lot of stress. I think they've done a terrific job, and I'd like to thank you and your staff for getting this organized. I'm going to give you a little background. Badger TraCS, if many of you may be aware, was actually a part of DMV up until this past year. The state of Wisconsin was building a new central headquarters in Madison, and DMV was part of the plan was to be removed from that building. And Badger TraCS, I guess, was somewhat looking for a home. We had had a lot of coordination with them prior to that, and we had been doing some reorganizing within the State Patrol. So our leadership and DMV leadership got together and decided to move Badger TraCS under State Patrol. So it's a very good fit. We do a lot hand in hand with them before this, and it's coordinated out very well for us. We also this year moved our crash records section, which was under transportation safety under the Bureau of Sports Services. So we've tied in a lot of our IT services under one roof, which I think makes a lot of sense. So we have civilian and sworn staff working on many of the projects, the same things that you're working on. So we're really hoping you'll gain some new information about TraCS while you're here, ask questions, and bring information to us. So if you think there's a better way for it to be done or have ideas, we'd like to hear those, and we're always open to suggestions. So I'm just going to give you a little bit more background on my bureau. Under the Bureau of Sports Services, we also have our State Patrol Academy, which currently we have our 64th recruit class attending right now. We started about 5 weeks ago. We started with 30 cadets, about an average size for us, and currently we're down to 21. We've already lost 9, not through anything we've done. They've decided to leave on their own. Our last one that left earlier this week was activated for the military, so he was called up and will be going to Afghanistan. Our plan for him is to hire him back when he comes back. But so we're struggling with the hiring process. We're struggling to keep our cadets, and I think the same thing many of the agencies we're hearing around the state are having the same issue with. We had one cadet, knowing what he makes an hour, get his first paycheck, and then decide this is not enough money for me. So he went through the whole process, actually attended a couple weeks of the academy, and then decided when he got paid it's not enough money and he wanted to go back to his old job. So, which for us is, it's almost a year-long process to hire them, start them through the academy, and then we lost them. So interesting times. It's been a struggle, and as I said, I think you all have probably the same issues we do. We also have our engineering and communications section in our bureau, and that's our radio system. So we have techs around the state that help maintain our portable mobile radios, our camera systems, and also maintain our tower sites, which we have a little over 150 tower sites around the state. So a very busy group. We are in the process right now of request for proposal. We've put out for a bid for a new radio system. So we're in that process of having vendors tour the state, look at our radio sites, and they will be putting in bids. So we will either be refreshing our current radio system, or we'll be looking at replacing it with a whole new radio system. So it's going to be very busy times for that group in the near future. Under that section is also our Fleet Installation Center, which we build our own squads. So we get about anywhere from 80 to 110 new cars a year, and they're the ones that design them, put our light bars, basically build our cars there. We also do work for the DNR, Capitol PD, Department of Revenue, Department of Justice. We also help them with building some of their cars as well. And the last one I'll tell you about is our Traffic Management Center. And for many of you, that might be what you know as the STOC, the Statewide Traffic Operations Center. This year, State Patrol took over that area. Those are contracted employees that work down there. They're the ones that control all the cameras, the message boards, the portable signs that you see around the state. And we're in the process of building up a single dispatch center, which will be located out of the Traffic Management Center, which is downtown Milwaukee, above the Amtrak station, for those who are familiar with Milwaukee, all on St. Paul Avenue. So we've moved our Waukesha post dispatch down there, and eventually we will be closing all of our 7 dispatch centers around the state and having one located in Milwaukee. We feel it's much more efficient. So we're going to go from approximately 55 dispatchers down to somewhere in the area of 40 to 45 when we get it all completed. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to have law enforcement in the dispatch center 24/7 working with our dispatchers. So when there's calls coming in for crash reconstruction for one of our TRU members, for canine, air support, our force protection team, any of the services that we provide and help you guys with, it'll be a one-call, one-stop shop, and you'll be able to make your phone calls down there, and we'll be able to get you the resources you're looking for. This, again, is a huge change for our organization. Obviously, it hasn't gone over well. If you're a dispatcher in Eau Claire, you probably don't want to move down to the city of Milwaukee. So we've lost a lot of employees that I went and looked for a different job. So we've been hiring on a regular basis, 5 or 6 at a time, new dispatchers. we're finding the same thing is occurring with them as they are on our sworn side. We'll have them for short periods of time and then they leave. We changed our process a little bit. A little funny story. We set it up originally where we do the interview. We would do a background check on. We decide if we're going to hire them or not. Well, we wanted to streamline our process because we would set up 30 interviews and 15 people would show up. So we started doing a phone interview just to make sure they were engaged, knew it was coming. Very simple questions like, do you know what a dispatcher is? Why are you interested in the job? And one of the phone calls we made, the very first question is, why are you interested in the job? And the person hung up. So obviously they weren't going to show up. I think we're getting some that are applying for positions, I don't know, for whatever reason, and then they don't come. So it's been a struggle for us there. We do a 12-week training program with them, and so we put a lot of time and effort into it. And unfortunately, there's been some pretty good turnover with that as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Harvey. He's going to talk about our IT section, which we have divided into 4 separate areas, but I'll let Dave carry on with that. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the conference.
Thanks, Major Hubricks. My name is Dave Harvey. I've been in front of this group before in a different capacity, but as the Major explained, the reorganization that occurred within the DOT has created a new public safety technical services section within the State Patrol. And I'm up here not because I feel like everyone wants to know exactly how the State Patrol is put together, but more to just put you at ease about the fact that TraCS is moving. TraCS is actually fairly modular, and we got all of TraCS when it was moved from the DMV to the State Patrol, so it's intact, still functioning the way it was previously, but we're hoping that the new reorganization will really bring some efficiencies with it as well. This new section, as you can see on the slide there, now includes the Badger TraCS unit that came from DMV. It includes our mock support unit, which actually was done by 2 separate bureaus, or 2 elements from 2 separate bureaus of the State Patrol. Those have both been brought under the same section. The crash records unit, also the FARS team for the fatal accident recording system. Our own production support unit, which basically means our internal IT staff, and our sworn technical services. Those are our officers that act as liaisons between the field and our technical staff. So what I can tell you is, if you've been at previous conferences through the years, you've had some of these same entities in front of you. So when the new crash form was being ushered in, you had the crash records unit, Chucks and his staff here kind of walking us through that new process. When Mock came onto the scene, you saw Mock here at the conference. Dar was good enough to give us time and some breakout sessions to kind of explain what that is, which we're doing again this year. So essentially these different entities that we're all supporting and serving law enforcement have been brought under this singular umbrella. They have a streamlined reporting chain, but maybe more important than all that, they're all now co-located. So as Major Hubricks mentioned, we for a long time work closely with TraCS, but you can only work so closely when you're 2 floors away. As it stands right now, if you come into our new headquarters, the crash records unit, our production support unit, TraCS, Mock, they're all co-located, sitting right next to each other on the same floor. And I can tell you, just from seeing that in action over the course of the last couple of months, it's a big difference when you have a question and you have to go a couple floors away versus swiveling in your chair and talking to the person next to you saying, hey, can you look at this in TraCS, or can you check this on the TraCS database if TraCS is trying to refine something. So I think from an end user standpoint, if anyone thought this change might be something that's not good for TraCS, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it really is an opportunity to really improve things for every unit that's involved. Mock, TraCS, the crash records unit. We've seen the benefits already, and I think those are going to continue to come. So I'm not going to take a lot of more time here. If you want the hairy details of it, track me down, and I'll give you even more detail. But I would like to say thanks again to Dar for all the work that she put in putting this together. It's a big undertaking. It's like planning a wedding every year. This is a big deal, and I know Dar loses a lot of sleep over it. I'd like to thank the Badger TraCS unit for helping to put this on, as well as other members of our section that are up here supporting them today. I'd also like to thank our guest presenters. I think they bring a lot of value to the conference every year by sharing their perspectives. You know, someone outside of DOT or the State Patrol. I think that's really valuable. And then finally, I'd like to thank the members of the Forms Advisory Committee for their help in putting on the conference here today, but also their help all through the years. That's kind of a unique group. They're representing your interests. They're from all different agency types, all different agency sizes, and I think they really do a fine job of representing your interests and making TraCS what it is today, which I'll say this, I mean, we all work in Wisconsin, we're working on TraCS. We may not have the same perspective as you know, others with a larger view, and that is that TraCS within Wisconsin is, it may be one of the best systems in the country if you look at what other states are working with as far as what it does for law enforcement, its affordability, the fact that we're all on it across the board, top to bottom. You talk to other states and that ship might have sailed for them already. They've already gone 10 different directions, and Wisconsin's sitting here with one platform that works across law enforcement, and that's significant. I mean, there's a lot of benefits that have been derived from that and that I think are coming down the way, and Dar might talk about what the future for TraCS might look like. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Dar. I hope everybody enjoys the conference and you find it well worth your trip.
All right, can everyone hear me? First of all, welcome and thank you, Major and Dave, for welcoming the TraCS unit into State Patrol. Things have been going along real well, and I can't be happier. So right now it's a great working relationship we have with State Patrol. So first of all, I wanted to let everyone know, most of you know Dennis Rodenkirch. He's on our TraCS help desk. I'm sure a lot of you have talked to him over the years. I wanted to let you know that he's not here today. He was unfortunately in a motorcycle crash on Sunday, and he is now at the UW hospital recovering from multiple very serious injuries. So he'll probably be, I'm guessing, away from the office at least 2 to 3 months. So please be patient with us as Alex and Dave try to keep answering your calls and as we move forward. I purchased a few Get Well cards, and they're going to be on the tables on this side out by the registration, and actually right outside these doors here, that if you'd like to write your name or write a little note to Dennis, we'll take them and I'll drop them off at the hospital later this week or next week. I don't think he's taken visitors yet. He's still in ICU, so. But moving on, I'm just going to do a little housekeeping. There's restrooms off here to my right outside the doors. Restrooms on this side, you'll need to go down the hall to my left and then to the right. And they're over there on those, on that hall over there. We have today some Whistler folks, so if you have any questions about the streets or your maps, they're going to be sitting out here. Cara and Kathleen from Whistler are here, so please stop by if you have any questions about any of your maps. Let's see if this works. Oh, Okay. I took out the, okay. I took out the little button, it didn't work. All right. So anyway, I'm just going to go briefly over the agenda. We're going to be in this room until 10:45. So we're going to have a break at 9:30. There will be a little buffet back there for breakfast. You can eat here at your tables. And then we're going to have a little demo of the diagram tool after that. And then we'll move on to all your breakout sessions. And so if you go out these doors, down to the right, you'll see our E and F, and down to the left are going to be the mangrove and aloes wood rooms that you can go to. Let's see, what else? As you leave, of course, we always like to see get your name tag holders. We don't need the name tags. We just try to save money every year to keep your prices down. So if you can return the name tags, just leave them on the tables. Also on the back of your name tag, if you don't know, is your schedule. Please refer to that. We also have some pink slips in your folder. If you have any questions, fill them out. Feel free to raise your hand if you have questions, but if you don't have an opportunity and you want to write them down, again, drop them off either in your breakout session or at the registration table. Also, we have an FAC form, the goldenrod sheet of paper. We love to have volunteers come in. I just love the FAC. We depend on them. We ask them questions all the time. They meet 4 times a year for about 6 hours, 9 to 3. They also help put this on. They've been a real great help, helping present as well as do registration and anything else that we need help with. Also, if you're not getting emails from us at Badger TraCS, or you have other staff in your agency that you want to get those TraCS emails, we have books on both tables out here in this hallway, as well as the registration table out here. Please go ahead, look to see if you're listed. If not, go ahead and add your name. And with that, I guess I'll start moving on here. I'm going to go kind of quickly because I have more material than I have time. So this year we had a lot of changes for Badger TraCS. Jenny Schmidt, who had been here since the infancy of TraCS back in 2001, she retired in February, and Beth Nichols, she decided to take a job closer to home due to family obligations. Then we have 3 brand new people that Alex, he started in April of this year, and then Dave and Brian, they both started November of last year. So very happy. They have really filled in what we needed. Brian's working very closely with Jerry to be able to do all the development that needs to get done, and Dave and Alex have been wonderful on the support calls and jumping in and figuring everything out to help you guys. Here's our new building that we moved into in March. And so when we moved over, we moved up with the State Patrol. And so now we are officially part of the State Patrol as of this fiscal year in July. So as Dave had mentioned, we have 557 agencies in the state that are using TraCS. So that's over 96% of all law enforcement. DOJ, as of in July, said there were 578 law enforcement agencies. So that's more agencies than any other state that are using TraCS. So when there's issues with TraCS and they want to make changes, we always have a lot to say because we have a lot of agencies to support, and it packs all of you. Now I'm just going to go through some updates that are happening. The uniform traffic citation. Back in June, we implemented something that DMV had requested because some court clerks had kind of petitioned saying, here, we want the appearance by field on the citation, that when it's not a mandatory appearance, they just wanted it blank. Well, it might have been a good idea on paper, but in reality, it was not very good. So we went back to DMV, and they talked with the clerks, and well, now we're putting no back in. So when you get the fall pack, you should start seeing no when it's not, appearance is not required. Also, we have sent out some new sublicense agreements to some agencies. Wisconsin just signed a new agreement with the state of Iowa to use TraCS here in Wisconsin, and they have now implemented every 5 years. We will update that. So I thought, what a great idea. After we sign an agreement with them, depending on any changes, we'll turn around and we'll do a sublicense agreement with agencies here. So you can expect every 5 years to get an agreement. We've sent some out. Be honest, with this conference, we have not had time to get the signatures and get it sent back to you. We'll be working on that in these next couple months. If you've not received an email with the license agreement, you will shortly. Let's see. And then the law enforcement survey. We do this every fall. And I know people get tired of doing surveys, but this is so important. I love being able to be in meetings and someone will say, well, how many agencies use this form? And I say, here, let me check. And I have this data. It might be a year old or 2 years old, but it's still data that I can show that says, oh, of the people that we surveyed, maybe 250, 50% of them do, or 80%, or maybe 10%. Whatever it is, it's very valuable to us to help us make decisions on how we move forward on different things. So we'll be sending this out again. I'm guessing it might be the 1st of December. So please, even if you can't answer all the questions, have a couple people in your agency fill it out and send it in. It's just very invaluable to us. Other updates. Still at a national level, we're looking at trying to get away from the 30-bit processing and get to 64. They say within 5 years it is going to change, that mock and TraCS will be being compiled at a 64-bit processing. So something for you to think about as you move forward and do any purchasing. If you can try to move to the 64-bit processor, that's what we want to do. Also, I would suggest talking to other vendors to see if other softwares can make sure that they also are working on that. Again, because of, all states have these issues that, oh boy, we can't do that now because we're not prepared. So I think it's going to be closer to 5 years than now, but I would guess, if I had to, between 3 and 5 years something will be happening. So again, it's just a heads up. Also, they want to move away from the Access database. Now, this is something that I am mentioning that I've talked a little bit with Dave, and this is something that I still want to see if I can find options or alternatives of what we can do. Access, they want to kind of get rid of that, and doing that means you would need SQL or Oracle database. That means these small agencies, you need more support. And I know that's a cost issue, and I don't want that. So I'm hoping to look at other options and alternatives to see if there's some way we can do a centralized database for the small agencies. That way you don't have to do all the support, and it's more efficient. Unfortunately, on this side, then we would have to find resources and support on that. So it's still something we're looking at. I'm guessing this is the same time frame that they want to get rid of Access, about the same time they'd be going to the 64-bit processing. The new baseline. So our fall pack, well, I had hoped it was going to be out the end of September. I always have a goal. I'm not sure if I've ever made that goal for the fall pack, but I'll keep putting goals out there. So I'm hoping in the next, I'm going to say 2 to 3 weeks, that we'll get our fall pack out. The new baseline will include an improved diagram tool, which someone's going to be doing a presentation later on that, giving you a demo. There's a new attachment functionality. It's going to be able to handle larger attachments much better. It's also going to have encryption for the attachments, so it's more secure. And then the transmission. Currently, there was a memory leak which was causing issues if agencies did a lot of transmissions. The TraCS would crash, and so that is supposed to be fixed. Other things that are going to be in the fall pack, we're adding the new DNR crash form, and April's here from DNR who's going to go through and give you a little demo and talk about that. It's used for the ATV, snowmobile, and boat crashes. You'll be transmitting them to DNR, and the form will appear December 3rd of this fall. So if you download our pack earlier, you're not going to see it until December 3rd. Also, the MixApp inspection form. I know a lot of you don't use this. There's a few agencies that do the MixApp inspections. It's replacing Aspen software that State Patrol uses. And at this point, they're still working with the feds. The federal FMCSA needs to certify this form before it can be rolled out officially. So it is actually in the pack. You won't know it's there. And when it does get certified, State Patrol will be contacting the agencies that do these inspection forms, and then they'll get access rights. So then it'll appear for them, but everyone else, you won't even know it's there. We have a few new reports in the alcohol form, the 24-hour out of service motor vehicle report. It's also known as the MV 3546. You'll now be able to, once you validate it, it tells you, you can email it to this certain DMV email address. We updated the State Lab of Hygiene blood urine report. They updated their report. They asked us to make the changes, so they're in there. Down the road, we'll probably be also maybe adding a transmission. We just didn't have time at this point. And then the DNR informing the accused. It's currently in the DNR citation. We've moved that into the alcohol form. This stuff I'm going to go through even a little faster. I'm not going to hit all the points. The diagram tool, again, Brian's going to cover this a little later. Some of these changes were due to Wisconsin. You wanted to be able to use the TLT map as a background, so they added that. Some units will automatically appear that you'll see later. The snapping of the roads with the intersections works much better. Everything is to scale, so I think there's a lot of improvements. However, yesterday I did hear that there are still a couple things that got missed. So please feel free as you go to use it. If there's things that was there that you were using and it's not there now, please let us know so we can get those updated. There's also changes to the TLT. Now when you tab to the map field, usually you'd go up and click on locate. Now you don't have to hit locate, it'll just automatically open up. The override feature, there was a decision to disable that. So if you go to install it, override won't be available to you unless your administrator configures it. So all they need to do is enable it, so then you can have everyone in your agency use it, or you can have it where only certain machines have that override capability. Now, if a person has supervisor access level, you have the override capability without anyone doing anything. So I wanted to mention that because I know there are some people who use override all the time. You still can, you'll have to just configure it right up front. Others who say, well, we have some officers that they do overrides, but I don't want them to. Well, here might be a way that you can keep that from happening. So, but we also understand there are some situations where you get new roads that you need to override. So I'm I'm not saying override is a bad thing, it's just you want to use it when you need to, not for everything. We also merged the vehicle make and then plate type tables. We started having DNR vehicle makes, and we had the DMV vehicle makes, and then we had chassis makes, and it just, the upkeep of having 3 different tables, we said, let's merge them all together. So that's what we did. We still have to do a second step. Right now, there is some filtering you can do when you're looking at the vehicle makes, but we want to put it into kind of that violation search format, and so then it'll be easier to use. But that probably won't happen for the next few months. Let's see. We also updated the statute ordinance tables. Earlier this year, we ran into some duplications, which we were under the impression there would never be duplications the way CCAP was adding statutes to their tables and their records, but we found it was happening, so we added a unique number in the statute tables. So this will eliminate any duplicates moving forward. One thing to note, if you use ordinance tables or a shortcut table, there are going to be some special instructions that you need to complete with this fall pack. I'm not going to go through it, but just make sure you do that, otherwise it's not going to work for you. Citation forms, again, I'm not going to hit all of these. We're changing the wording from violator to defendant on the printed reports. The parking tickets, if you use that, now can be printed on a 3-inch printer. Courts, if they want, they're contacting us, and we're adding, or actually they're contacting DMV. If they want their court website or their phone number on the citation, they're letting us know, and we're adding that, which I think you would appreciate, because now they can call the court instead of you guys. And then the DNR citation reports, they're being more standardized, like the UTC and the NTCs. The crash form updates. Some of the time fields now have an unknown, so you can select unknown when it's truly unknown. The distracted by field was moved from the vehicle to the individual group and split into 2 fields. And then you can also add violations for other people, not just the drivers. You can also now do a vehicle owner or a carrier. If you want more information on the crash stuff, they'll address that in the crash breakout. There's also an inline report on all the forms. What that'll do, if you have attachments, let's say you have 10 attachments on one form, instead of clicking on each one of those and opening it up, now you're able to just go ahead through this inline report, and it'll open up all 10 of them in one document, or it'll print all 10 reports at once. So it's a little more efficient, so you don't have to open things one at a time. And this, which I know some agencies have already mentioned, they can't wait for this, is a machine number used to only have a limit of 3, now it has 4. So you can actually assign machine IDs up to 2,499. But don't go beyond that, otherwise you're not going to get a document number, won't be created properly. So what's next? I don't have anything in stone. These are things that we want to work on and that we're trying really hard to move forward. The incident report. We've started meeting with DOJ to try to get the incident form in. My hope and plan is to have it in by next fall. Don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to try and do everything we can to do that. The use of force. They also want the use of force. I'm still not sure if it should be 1 form or 2 forms, because I know the use of force is an incident, and I know it could be included on that. I think that's a discussion. I may put it in an evaluation for you guys, asking if you want to have it in the incident form or have it separate. Then any other forms that are mandatory to law enforcement, like the pursuit form or the crash. There are certain forms that everyone has to complete. And if there is something like that, those are the type of forms that we kind of look for, just so everyone can get that use. And this is something that on the side we're going to try to do. I've kind of gone more to DMV. They haven't really come to me to do this, but I have talked to some law enforcement agencies and they'd like this. For those who do parking tickets, they want to be able to, we'd like to be able to suspend people's registration. You have all the information in there once. DMV currently is contracting with a vendor and they are creating a website for you to go and enter this information to suspend somebody for the parking. But I'm thinking, well, all the information you already have in TraCS. So if we can just get a transmission in there and do that. So that might be a small project we do once DMV has their website up, and so they have a web service all prepared. We'll be working on that also. And now to these guys. I can't thank them enough, and last year I got emotional. I'm trying not to get emotional, but they work really hard and they really care about you guys. So I have to stop. But I do. I thank them for everything they had to do, and when they found out about Dennis in the crash, they all pitched together, and someone got, poor Alex got thrown into. He's only been here 6 months, but he said, sure, I'll do it, whatever I need to do, and he did. And I thank you all. Also, I want to thank Travis and Mark from State Patrol. They also are stepping in to take over something that Dennis was going to do today, and so they've been gracious enough to step in and present that. Then the FAC members. I also, I can't thank them enough for everything they do. So if you don't mind, I'd like you to stand, and there's 2 or 3 of them. I want you to come up to the front. But if Diane Groff, if you can stand up and come up to the front. She's with Winnebago County Sheriff. Sergeant Mick Price with the Wisconsin Capitol Police. If you can come on up. Sergeant Brian Hassey, hope I pronounced that right. He's with the town of Beloit PD. These 3, Brian, why don't you come on up? These 3, this is their last year. So they'll have one more meeting, I think, in November here, and then they're done with their 2-year commitment. But we also have Sergeant Booker Ferguson from Sparta. He's back there. Officer Sean Stevens from Hortonville PD. Juan Ortiz from Walworth County Sheriff. Matthew Drought from Milwaukee PD. Then we have Mark Fetzer and Travis Lauer from the Wisconsin State Patrol. They tend to do a little tag team here attending meetings. Jeff Butner, he was with the Stockbridge Muncie PD. He took a different job in April, so he is not on the committee anymore. So if we do have any tribal nations out there that would like to volunteer, we're looking for some tribal representation, and it would be great because we need to know everybody's needs. Then we also have Mike Sadison from the DSP Crash Records Unit, Sharon Olson from the DMV Citations Unit, and then Brian and Jerry from TraCS on our FAC. And they all contribute a lot. They all bring everyone's perspective, and it really helps us make the decisions to move forward and keep TraCS working well for you. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Sergeant Matt Ossacker, and he's going to talk about the pursuit form. But before you start talking, I'm just going to go and present something to these guys. Thanks.
My name is Matt. I'm the traffic team sergeant with Dane County Sheriff's Office. I was asked to kind of just talk about workflow and reporting with the new pursuit form. Just to be clear, this is how we do it. It's probably not the right way. It's certainly not the only way. You guys are about to be wowed by a super cool PowerPoint that the millennial who sits in the office next to me was appalled by, but I think I'm going to shock some of you. So this is how we do it, not the only way. We've kind of had to tweak a few things. We have the primary deputy, whoever's going to be decides they're the primary. If there's more than one of them, they complete this form. I used to be the one who would try to find in the shift logs, or luckily, if I was lucky, I got an email and had to go to the old website and try to read through the reports and extract the information and put it in the old website. Now we make the person who actually did the pursuit fill out the form. They've got the information. They know it better than anybody in theory. They can complete the form. So we make them do it and validate it. We have 24/7 operations with supervisors, so whoever the supervisor is monitoring that pursuit is then expected to go in, since they, in theory, should have been paying attention. They're expected to go into that form once it's validated and mark it as complete. So they're kind of doing that check to make sure that everything that they remember happening on the radio actually happened. They're also the ones who review the narrative reports, which I don't do. So in theory, that form should come to me, because I get it last, good to go. With the new form, we're still working out some of those bugs, so the last person to look at it is the traffic team supervisor, which at least for the next year is me. And then I accept it, and at that point it transmits. So we don't transmit the form until the primary deputy's completed it or validated it. Whoever was supervising the pursuit has marked it complete, and then once it's complete, I go through and mark them accepted and push them on to the state. The biggest problems we have, this is by far the biggest problem we have, although I've sent enough emails recently or over the last 6 months or so that we've cleaned this up. It's this directly engaged in the active pursuit thing. And this primarily affects two fields, the total units field and the total other agencies field. And the last bullet point here is kind of the definition. It overlaps both of them. We have a lot of times where we'll list vehicles as being actively or directly involved in the active pursuit that weren't. They're trying to parallel, they're trying to get ahead of it, they're up somewhere else laying down road spikes, whatever they're doing. Unless they're right there chasing the mope, they don't count. So leave them out of both. And where this, so most of the time, and you'll see it kind of later in the slide, it's just one of our units, because it's a lot, the deputies aren't real close to each other a lot of time, and it's usually just a one unit pursuit. But where this does affect it is when you get to the other agencies things, because we have a lot of agencies in Dane County that kind of technically have a no pursuit policy, or they're very restricted in their pursuits. And just because they're paralleling, or they help with the high risk stop, or they're throwing out road spikes, they're not actively involved unless they're right there, red lights and sirens with you chasing the turd. So you just be real careful in there, because what the State Patrol is looking for when this goes up to their level, if you're listing other agencies in there, they're going to be looking for the pursuit form from those other agencies. And if they were just throwing out road spikes, they're not required to do a pursuit form. So if you list them on there, the State Patrol is going to be looking for that pursuit form from that other agency. So just make sure you're really careful with this definition here. Now you guys can see how cool this is. All right, the other thing we mess up is this initial violations field. We have, there's really just the three. There's the initial, the during, and the post-pursuit stuff, and our deputies like to get every violation they saw into this initial thing, but once they declare that pursuit, this field kind of ends. So it's whatever, just keep it real limited. Our deputies like to list every stop sign violation, which quite honestly is a lot of extra work for them in this field. Once you get to the during thing, it's a lot more consolidated, so it's a whole lot easier. So just, I've had to send out several emails on this to our guys, and they save themselves a lot of work if they just did the initial violations, bam, boom, once our lights and sirens and mope takes off, get out of this field and start going to that other one, because I think it's real easy in that during pursuit thing. It's just kind of a summary. You don't have to list all these violations out. I kind of already talked about the other agency case number. Sometimes our guys leave this blank, and if it's a pursuit with the State Patrol or whoever it is the other agency helping us, if they're actively involved in that pursuit, it's a whole lot easier easier once you dump these ad hoc reports to correlate the two incidents back to each other. If you can get their case number, and it should be just a quick phone call up to their comm center or just talking to them after you're done with the high-risk stop, whatever, to get that case number, and that's just an easy way when you're going to start looking at data later to make sure you're talking about the same incident. All right, reporting from bots. So you obviously internally can run your own ad hoc reports on your own pursuits if you want to. My bosses like to see more of a countywide perspective. Some of that's politics, and some of it's just kind of the philosophy amongst different agencies in the county and as far as what we're doing compared to other people. So that requires me to email Dave, and then I think he sends it to Mark or Travis, and I get this massive ad hoc report with every single field dumped to me. Usually the one that I care about the most, because I know it's the ones that we're looking for, is they usually dump me 2 reports, one for every pursuit that started in the county and one for every pursuit that ended in the county. And sometimes they kind of overlap. But it's a pretty big ad hoc report, and you do have to do a little work to sort out. Yeah, that's it right there. And it's real wide and messed up looking and stuff, but it's all right. So before I go in here and start sorting this, because this was a January to June report for all of pursuits starting in Dane County. There's a couple things I got to clean up on it. One pursuit might have multiple rows on this Excel sheet, because once you get into those multiple violations that are occurring, your reasons for a pursuit, it dumps multiple Excel rows on there. And so what I had to do is go in and to make it easier when I'm running pivot tables, which is, my millennial friend showed me that, which is really cool. It makes just a lot easier for me to get to the right number of where I want to be. And so I'll go in and, like, you know, look at our case number. Well, you can see in the kind of the blue line there's multiple rows for that one incident. That was one pursuit form, but because of the initial violations, it creates all these multiple rows. So I'll go in there and I'll delete all the extra Dane County Sheriff's offices and those types of things just to clean it up. So when I run the pivot tables later, it's not throwing me, because I think it was showing 80-something pursuits when there was 57 of them in the county. So I just clean up a few things in there. You could have 2 pursuits under the one case number, because keep in mind, if you're going to start a pursuit and terminate it and somebody else starts it again, that's 2 separate pursuits, even from the same agency, because you got different start and end points for each one of them. Our reporting rules internally allow the deputies to do that under one incident number. Some of you might create a separate incident number, so there are times where I'll have 2 pursuit forms underneath the same incident number, and it's not because there were 2 deputies involved in the same thing. It's because we started, terminated, and somebody else found mope later and started it up again, and our internal rules allow us to do that. So you just kind of got to be careful whatever your rules are. Yeah, this directly engaged in the active pursuit thing, this is where it becomes real important. Both of the pursuits here, the pink one and the peach colored one, those have the multiple line things again. Those were our pursuits. And in both these cases, it's legitimate entries for these other agencies being involved. The bottom one there with Lodi and Columbia County, so this was a good example for us. They chased this dude out of Lodi down into our county, and they were screaming all over the northwest part of the county, and we were trying to get in position. So during their initial pursuit, we got deputies trying to catch up with them, trying to get road spikes out, whatever. We were never actively involved in that pursuit with them. We were trying to be, but we just never were. So we did not complete a pursuit form on that, and they did not list us on their pursuit forms, in theory, because we were never actively involved in it. However, and you can see the distance is real short on this, it's only 3 point, I can't read that, but whatever miles. After they terminated, one of our deputies found the vehicle, spiked it, and then chased it. Both the Lodi cop and a Columbia County deputy caught our deputy while chasing it. That's why they're listed on this form. They were all actively involved in that pursuit. If Columbia County and Lodi would not have gotten to us until the car was stopped and we're just in a high-risk stop, they wouldn't be listed on this form. But all 3 of us during our portion of this pursuit were listed on here. So it gets a little bit muddy. It was a long pursuit. We weren't on their forms because we were never actively involved, as much as we tried to be. This is those cool pivot table things, and this is why you have to do a little cleaning up. And I can't see the screen, it's kind of little, but this is just kind of a summary things. These are some of the things our bosses look at. broken out by the different fields. Our bosses like that the vast majority of them are terminated pursuits. The vast majority of them are single unit pursuits. Part of that's just geographic stuff. I don't know. You can do these pivot tables based off anything. Only 4 out of the 57 were road spikes actually successfully deployed. So it's not very often. I didn't put it on here because my bosses aren't thrilled with the fact that 53% of the pursuits in the county were the ones initiating them. So whatever. Starting location, I did not do this. This is my millennial friend again. And I don't know how to make little marks on here or point at that screen for you, but for those of you familiar with Madison, Highway 51 kind of parallels the interstate north and south there, and there's a little series of blobs along Highway 30 between East Washington Avenue and 51, and that was our DDAC zone for this year, which was just a pretty cool project that we had jointly with the State Patrol and the City of Madison Police Department. And we had a lot of pursuits out of there, a lot of drugs, and a lot of guns and stuff like that. But that's why you see that little cluster right there as we hit the heck, I'm not allowed to swear, out of that zone. And there are a lot of mopes and bad guys running through there. So we had a lot of pursuits, but my millennial friend had to do this little map thing. I was asked to throw this in there. Quite honestly, we just report our pursuits as they're happening. I mean, the deputies are expected to do them in a timely manner like they would any of their other paperwork, so I can't tell you it occurs that night, but usually within 24 to 72 hours, they're doing the pursuit forms. So they just got to be in to the state by August 15th, for the preceding 12 months. If you don't have any pursuits, every agency is required to report, so if you're a real tiny agency and you don't have pursuits or you've got one of these no pursuit policies, like for example, the City of Madison, when you run the Dane County-wide, there's not a single pursuit reported to the state from the City of Madison Police Department. Assuming that's accurate, they don't have many pursuits. They're very limited circumstances. But so at the end of the fiscal year or the end of the year, they would still have to go in and complete a pursuit form showing that they had the 0 pursuit. It's the option right when you log in. It's the first field. Just mark it's the second choice. Just went and transmit that thing off showing you had no pursuits. And then Darlene tried playing Stump the Chump with me this morning and gave me a list of the most common questions. Who can fill out the form? Anybody who has access to TraCS, you guys decide. It can be your chief if they're power hungry, or it can be your office staff, whoever you want to do it. We make the primary copper do it because they should know the answers to all the questions on the form. It can be filled out mobile or office, doesn't matter as long as you can transmit it. How long do you have to fill out the form? Well, in theory, it's as soon as after the pursuit occurs is that you guys require for your reporting requirements, the better, because much like with the crash form and stuff like that, training and standards and other people are trying to use more real-time data, what's happening now. These young kids who are running crazy in Dane County, that's the perception right now, is that we're chasing kids, and oh my God, these poor juveniles. So the more I can keep my bosses chilled out by getting real-time data for them, the better. So the sooner you get it to the state, the better, but I guess in theory, the statute just, by August 15th for the preceding 12 months. Can you mail the form? No. Transmit it through TraCS. Can you still use the old way to report the pursuits? Well, you can try, but the website doesn't work, so good luck. I think those are all the questions. Is that good? That's all I got. I'd love to do a mic drop, but I'd probably break the thing. So.
All right, thank you, Matt. And now we have April Dombrowski from the DNR, who's going to talk about the DNR crash form.
All right, good morning, everybody. I was asked to come in this morning and talk a little bit about the new DNR crash report. This is something that is really pretty exciting, not only for our agency, but all our law enforcement partner agencies. I'm the section chief out of the Recreation, Safety, and Outdoor Skills section, which is housed within the Bureau of Law Enforcement within the Department of Natural Resources. I work right out of Madison and right out of our central office there. So the DNR crash report, my understanding is this has been a pretty popular demand throughout the various different law enforcement agencies with this ask from maybe previous conferences. So it's been in the works for a while here, and really based on the feedback, this crash report is going to be available for all law enforcement that utilizes TraCS, that addresses our recreational vehicle crashes. And those crashes, again, consist of the snowmobile, all-terrain vehicle, UTVs, off-highway motorcycles of more recent, commercial boating incidents, and recreational boating incidents. So we have a number of recreational vehicles that now this form is going to be able to address. So what's the importance of the form for the DNR? Really, there's a lot of information and data in this report that we utilize. Obviously, the information that we get from these reports around the state is to provide safety awareness and the messaging that we put out as an agency. For example, with the increased use of UTVs in the state of Wisconsin and the increased use of our recreational vehicles being on roadways and routes. One of the things that we're looking at from a statistical standpoint is the seriousness of injuries when it comes to UTVs and not wearing seatbelts in those UTVs. So it provides our agency, along with other law enforcement agency, really a law enforcement focused effort where we start seeing these statistics start to pop. We utilize the statistics, but then we also, this data is available to our law enforcement partners, our other organizations that have an interest in the various different rec uses, our volunteer instructor corps that teaches ATV, snowmobile, boating safety, our external partners, and then obviously when things come through the legislation and legislators are asking and inquiring about things as it relates to proposals and inquiries. It does come in compliance with our reporting mandates, both at a state level and at the national level, primarily with the boating. With the boating, we're tied into the U.S. Coast Guard and the BARD system, so that reporting element is then compliant with what they ask of us from a state. And then it also provides information to our manufacturers and our safety programs. What this will do, this form of being available on TraCS, it'll have the most current DNR crash report available. Through the use of our previous reports and things like that, working with our law enforcement partners, sometimes we'll have agencies that'll be utilizing an outdated form, and so we're always making sure we have the most current revision out there available for our patrols. So this will allow us, for the one-stop shop, to have the most current report available. It does replicate many features to the existing motor vehicle crash report. Now, as a conservation warden, I don't do a whole lot of motor vehicle crash reports, actually none. But we did, through working through this process, I learned a little bit about that, and we've actually worked really hard to replicate a lot of the fields that are similar. It's also a simplified form. We went through our previous forms and we kind of took out the data fields that, do we really need that data? And so we looked for the what we need to have versus the nice to have, and we incorporated that into the new form. Again, it'll be available to all law enforcement agencies that utilize TraCS, and there will be an F2 help function option to assist officers in what field what the field is requiring for the entry. We'll also have, when it becomes available, we'll have a mailbox set up for routing attachments, those type of things, and then also general questions. You know, this is one that when we were working through the process, we had our internal folks testing it and running through things that they thought made sense. We also had a number of our partner patrols at our last annual boat patrol conference also kind of go through, test the pilot form and kind of provide feedback for us. And a number of those boat patrol agencies also have ATV and snowmobile patrols in their counties. So it was kind of a stop shop to get some initial feedback with that report. So, but we already know that there's going to be more builds and more processes that need to be done. So as this gets kicked off, we welcome and encourage people to route questions and feedback through that mailbox system. There'll be a preliminary and final report with the DNR crash reports. You know, we have mandated reporting requirements as far as, you know, when we have a crash injury incident, but also more importantly the fatal reports. So we'd like to get those in as soon as practical. And then that's really the preliminary. That report is just going to pop up those fields that we need to absolutely have for the preliminary report. And then the officer will actually be able to go in there and then make amendments to complete their final report for submission. This will have a case file capability where you can attach various different attachments such as additional diagrams, photo logs, video, audio, statements, those type of things. But those are going to be, again, attachments that my understanding will not be able to be transmitted with the initial report, but through our mailbox system, those additional attachments and supplements to the report will be able to be routed through that means. Just like the other reports, we'll be able to import information from various other parts of TraCS, you know, utilizing the DL, the registration, where it can auto-populate those various different fields, also through citations too. And then not in the first build, but we have plans in the making that we're also going to have the public version of the officer report, which is basically when you generate a report, a public version is also developed, and then what that does is that actually will redact all the information that needs to be redacted, so to speak, in like an open records request. So then we'll just have that form available, ready to print off and provide to folks that have those inquiries. So the big release date. We're working on this throughout the process, and I know we're looking at an end of October date, and we really settled on a December date, and we're gonna shoot for this form going live December 3rd. So that'll actually be in time, hopefully, for our snowmobile season. So depending on where you are in the state, and if we have snow, we'll be able to kick this loose with the start of our snowmobile season. As of right now, there are limited capabilities with the initial form. We got a starting point, but there's a lot more we want to do with it. So we're looking forward to continuing to work together to build this and to make it just an outstanding product for all our officers to use. So as far as the report itself, again, my understanding is that on December 3rd, that officer report will be available to complete by the officers, and then the report will be transmittable. But when it comes to all the other supplemental information, those type of things, those are what we're going to have to route through and add through a mailbox system that we're going to have set up for our folks. And then again, that mailbox will also be available for general questions and feedback. And we'll have more information as we get closer to that December 3rd time. But again, we have things in place to go live for December 3rd. So with that, I just thought I'd want to keep it basic, keep it simple for today, let you know that it's coming. We're excited for it. I know a lot of our partner agencies are excited for it. So we'll hopefully we'll be able to kick this off and continue to build it for future use.
All right, well, thank you everyone up here on the panel for taking your time out of your busy day and life to come up and present.